I was lying in that hospital bed, holding our newborn daughter, when my billionaire husband leaned close and whispered words that shattered my world. I wish I never married you. But what I did next? Nobody saw it coming. Not him. Not his cruel family. Nobody. Before I tell you how I made them all regret underestimating me, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story gets wild and you won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be cheering for me too. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Nicole, and I need you to understand something right from the start. I'm not the kind of woman who dreamed about marrying rich. I'm an accountant from Cleveland. I had my own apartment, my own car, my own life. I was doing just fine. But then I met Julian at a coffee shop on a random Tuesday morning, and everything changed. He was charming, you know? The kind of man who actually listened when you talked. He'd ask about my day and remember little things I mentioned in passing. We'd meet for coffee, then dinners, then long walks through the city. For 3 months, it was perfect. Simple. He told me he worked in business, and I just assumed he had some corporate job like everyone else. When he proposed in that same coffee shop where we met, I said yes because I loved him. Not because of money, not because of status, just him. But here's the thing about secrets. They always come out. A week before our wedding, I was going through some papers at his place, and I found a magazine, Forbes. And there he was on the cover, Julian Hartford III, heir to Hartford Industries, $8 billion, billion, with a B. I remember just staring at that magazine, my hands shaking. Why hadn't he told me? When I confronted him, he said he wanted to make sure I loved him for him, not his money. It sounded romantic at the time. Looking back, it was the first red flag I ignored. We got married anyway. I was already in love. And what was I supposed to do? Call off a wedding because the man I adored turned out to be wealthier than I thought? But everything changed the moment I walked down that aisle. That's when I met his family. His mother, Constance, shook my hand like she was touching something dirty. His sister, Vanessa, gave me this smile that didn't reach her eyes, and his father, Gregory, looked right through me like I was invisible. During the ceremony, I heard the whispers. Gold digger, nobody, social climber. I held Julian's hand tighter and told myself it didn't matter what they thought. The honeymoon lasted exactly 4 days before Julian got an emergency business call. We flew back early, and suddenly I was living in the Hartford mansion. This massive estate with more rooms than I could count, and staff who looked at me like I didn't belong there, which, according to Constance, I didn't. 3 days after we got back, she cornered me in the library with a stack of papers, a post-nuptial agreement. To protect the family legacy, she said like I was some kind of threat. I looked at Julian waiting for him to say something, anything. He just stood there, silent. That's when I knew I'd made a mistake. But I refused to sign. It was the first time I stood up to them, and you should have seen the look on Constance's face. 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant. I was so happy. I imagined telling Julian, seeing his face light up, feeling his arms around me. Instead, he panicked. Actually panicked. And when I told his family, Constance looked at me like I'd committed a crime. "Already trapping him?" she said. Vanessa started spreading rumors that I'd poked holes in condoms, which was absolutely insane. Within a week, the family lawyer showed up with more paperwork, more agreements, more ways to make sure I knew I wasn't really part of this family. The next 6 months were a special kind of hell. Constance controlled everything in that house. My meals would arrive cold, or they'd bring me something I was allergic to, even though I'd told them multiple times. My doctor's appointments would mysteriously get canceled. Mail stopped coming. When I tried to call my old friends, the conversations felt weird, distant. Later, I found out the security guards were reporting my every move to Constance. And Julian? He worked 18-hour days. Every time I tried to talk to him about what was happening, he'd say I was being paranoid, that his mother was just protective, that I needed to try harder to fit in. I was 8 months pregnant and completely alone in a house full of people who hated me. Then came the night my water broke. We were at a family dinner, and I felt it happen. I told them I needed to go to the hospital, and Constance actually rolled her eyes. "She's so dramatic," she said. Vanessa pulled out her phone and started filming me, saying she wanted to capture the memories. I was in pain, terrified, and Julian was on a business call. He made me wait 15 minutes before we could leave. 15 minutes while I was in labor. And even then, he didn't drive me. He said he'd meet me there and sent me with the driver instead. 19 hours. That's how long I was in labor. Julian came and went, always on his phone, always with some urgent call that couldn't wait. His family sat in the waiting room complaining about the uncomfortable chairs and the bad coffee. And me? I was alone, bringing a baby into a world that already felt hostile. But when they placed her in my arms, none of that mattered. My daughter, my Summer, she was perfect, absolutely perfect. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I felt this overwhelming love that I'd never experienced before. For one beautiful moment, everything was okay. Then Julian asked everyone to leave so we could have a moment alone. I thought he was finally going to step up, be a father, be a husband. He leaned close to me, and I actually smiled, thinking he was going to say he loved me, that he was proud of me. Instead, he whispered, "I wish I never married you. You've ruined everything." I stopped breathing. He kept going. My mother was right. You don't belong in our world. This child, she's another burden I'll have to carry. Then he just walked out, left me there, holding our newborn daughter, with my heart in pieces on that hospital floor. But something happened in that moment. Something shifted inside me. The tears stopped. My mind cleared. I looked down at Summer, at this innocent baby who deserved so much better than this, and I realized something. I was done being weak, done being the victim, done letting these people walk all over me. A nurse came in a few hours later with my phone. She said she found it in my coat pocket. I thought I'd lost that phone weeks ago. When I turned it on, there were dozens of messages from my old friend Sharon. Messages warning me about things I needed to know, about Julian's past. I started searching, and the truth came spilling out like poison from a wound. Julian had been engaged before, to a woman named Isabel, wealthy, from the right family, everything Constance wanted. But Isabel broke it off when she discovered Julian had massive gambling debts, hundreds of thousands of dollars lost at private poker games and underground casinos. His family had covered it up, paid it off, but they needed a solution. That's where I came in. My Uncle Terrence had been a silent partner in a deal with Hartford Industries. I never knew because we weren't close, hadn't spoken in years. But when Julian married me, it sealed a merger that brought Terrence's company under the Hartford umbrella. I wasn't a wife. I was a business transaction, a signature on a contract, and I'd been too in love to see it. I kept reading, kept digging, and I found something else. The merger agreement included a clause that gave me 30% ownership in Hartford Industries. 30%. The documents had been sent to the mansion months ago, but I'd never seen them. Constance had intercepted my mail. She knew. They all knew. I had power, and they'd been working overtime to make sure I never realized it. I called Uncle Terrence from that hospital bed. He answered on the second ring, and when I told him everything, he went completely silent. Then he said, "Nicole, I had no idea. I thought he loved you. I thought you were happy." He was horrified, angry, and ready to help. Then I remembered something. Julian's study had security cameras. He'd installed them himself, said it was for protection. I'd always had access to the cloud storage because he'd given me the password when we first got married, back when he still pretended to trust me. I logged in, and there it all was. Months of footage. Constance on the phone, planning ways to make my life miserable. Vanessa laughing about how easy it was to turn my friends against me. Gregory discussing how to get me to sign away my rights. And Julian. Julian at his computer, gambling away money while I was upstairs, pregnant and crying. He'd lost $2 million in 6 months. The board didn't know. Nobody knew except his mother, who'd been covering for him again, moving money around, committing what amounted to embezzlement to protect her precious son. I downloaded everything, every file, every video, every piece of evidence, and then I made a plan. When they discharged me from the hospital, I went back to that mansion like a beaten dog. I let them think they'd won. I acted defeated, quiet, submissive. Julian barely looked at me. Constance supervised the nanny she'd hired without asking me. Vanessa posted pictures on social media, playing the perfect aunt while treating me like staff. And I just smiled and nodded and took care of my daughter while secretly meeting with lawyers. While Uncle Terrence gathered board members he trusted, while I built a case so airtight they'd never see it coming. 2 weeks after Summer was born, there was an emergency board meeting. Julian thought it was about quarterly reports. He put on his best suit and walked into that conference room like he owned the world. Then I walked in behind Uncle Terrence, carrying Summer in one arm and a folder in the other. Constance's face went white. What is she doing here? Julian looked confused. Gregory started to stand up, but Uncle Terrence put his hand on my shoulder and said, Nicole is here as a 30% shareholder and member of this board. She has every right to be here. I walked to the head of that table and dropped my folder in front of Julian. Open it, I said. My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this moment in my head 1,000 times. He opened it and I watched his face change as he flipped through the pages. Bank statements showing his gambling losses, screenshots of his online casino accounts, video transcripts of his mother moving company funds to cover his debts, security footage of them plotting against me. The room went completely silent. Gregory's face turned red. Vanessa tried to stand up, but I'd already arranged for security to be at the doors. No one was leaving until this was finished. I looked at Julian, really looked at him, and I said, You whispered that you wished you never married me. You said I ruined everything. But here's what you don't know, Julian. I documented everything. Every insult, every scheme, every lie. I have proof of your gambling addiction. Proof of your mother's embezzlement. Proof that this entire marriage was a business arrangement that you all kept hidden from me. And I'm done. Uncle Terrence stood up then. He looked around that table at the board members, all of them watching this unfold, and he said, I'm calling for an immediate vote. Julian Hartford is unfit to serve as CEO. His financial mismanagement and personal issues have put this entire company at risk. All in favor of his removal? Every hand went up except the Hartfords. Every single one. Julian was removed as CEO right there. Constance's finances were frozen pending investigation, and I filed for divorce that same afternoon, with full custody of Summer. The evidence was overwhelming. His lawyer took one look at what I had and advised him not to fight it. The news broke the next day. Hartford family in crisis. Stock prices dropped. Their perfect reputation shattered like glass. And me? I walked out of that mansion with my daughter and never looked back. 6 months have passed since that day. I'm in my own apartment now. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Summer is giggling in her crib while I work from my home office. Uncle Terrence is the new CEO, and the company is actually recovering. He offered me a position as CFO, my dream job, and I took it. I'm making my own money, building my own life. The child support covers everything we need, but I barely touch it. I don't want their money. I never did. Last week, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Julian was standing there. He looked terrible. Thinner, older, broken. I'm sorry, he said. I was weak. My family controlled me. Can we try again? For Summer? I just looked at him for a long moment. Then I smiled. You wished you never married me, Julian. Well, congratulations. That wish came true. Now leave. I closed the door in his face, walked over to Summer's crib, and picked her up. Mama's got you, baby, I whispered. Always. Because that's the thing they never understood. They thought breaking me would make me disappear. But all they did was show me how strong I really was. They thought I was nobody. But I was the one person they should have never underestimated. So that's how a whisper meant to break me became the push I needed to break free. Sometimes the worst moment of your life is actually the beginning of your best life. If this story spoke to you, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Subscribe because I've got more stories that'll have your jaw on the floor. And remember, never let anyone make you feel small, especially when you're holding the power they don't know you have. I'm Nicole, and this is my truth. See you in the next one.